And we have here with Professor J. Srinivasan, and he is the founder of this department and strong hold in here. And the man, he practices what he preaches. Carbon footprint, so reducing it. We have to reduce 2 tons per person per year. He walks from his house to here. That is his nature. And always on the top of the academics and all those things. We really enjoy interacting with him. I have a great pleasure extending invitation for him to come over here, introduce, welcome all the people formally. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. Welcome you all to the monthly seminar that Dr. Parima has organized for last 4 years now, 5 years now.
5 years and 2 months.
And we have heard many talks on the effect of climate change, environment on health. And some of those talks may have slightly discouraged you, telling you there are more heat waves and more things. But today we have a very different talk. Okay? This talk talks about how to attain the highest level of capability of human beings. Okay, so I look forward to it, and especially because I'm not on a marathon, and I always have great regard for those who do it. It requires a lot of determination and willpower. So I request Dr. Parima to introduce Gurmeet Soni Bhalla.
Okay. Well, on behalf of the VHS Center for Climate Change, Head Pharmacy Education Trust, and Environmental Chapter of Indian Academy of Pediatrics, I have a great pleasure extending the invitation for you for this monthly meeting. As you know, this 2025 is the International Year of Glaciers Preservation. And March 21st, 2025, World Day of the Glacier, as per the December 22 UN General Assembly adaptation, has started. To raise the awareness on critical role of glaciers, snow and ice in the climate system and impending change in the Earth's cryosphere. By way of in the mountain area, flooding and landslides, in downstream area, water supply risks to sea level rise, and the international action plan would be water for sustainable development between 2021 to 2028 and ecosystem restoration, global biodiversity by 2021 to 2030. We need a scientific research, innovation, and improved technologies. And in this situation, we have with us the Dr. Gurmeet Soni Bhalla. She is the pediatrician, allergist, longevity specialist, a chief medical officer in Resolute Tata, MD. And Gurmeet Soni Bhalla is a clinician with 25 years, and she trained in pediatrics and preventive medicine. Recently completed her North Pole Marathon at 90 degrees north, running in the frozen Arctic Ocean in sub-zero conditions. After 5 attempts over 4 years it took her, she and her husband reached the pole aboard the French hybrid energy icebreaker and successfully finished the race. A marathon on all the 7 continents, she has done it. Dr. Bhalla and discuss a whole lot of things, her experience in the global earth. Mr. Arjun Bhalla is an architect, her husband, and leads one of the India's largest architectural design consultancy companies in India. He had his own way of adapting to the environmental issues in Arctic, Antarctic. He followed her also. And also I feel proud to say that she's an allergist and all things. I happened to be her teacher in 4 years. 3 years in diploma in pediatrics, 3 years course. And first time first attempt only. I think I feel proud to say, proud to be a teacher, and great welcome to you. So, and also, as I said, we are going to record your proceedings and put it internet and our bulletin putting there with your permission. And also, we have internet connection is there. Link I have sent it to the environmental chapter. There are 1,300 members all over India. They are going to witness that with your permission. Welcome, over to you.
Thank you, sir, for that warm welcome. Today is going to be not a very sciencey talk. I'm going to talk about my experience and my attempts to run across the globe. Sir, of course, walks every day. I decided, let me have my footprint across the world. So that's how it started. Traveling, it leaves you speechless and then turns you into a storyteller by Ibn Battuta. After running for over 15 years, this is what echoes to me very closely, because everywhere I went, it has generated a story that I can pass on to either my listeners or whoever I come in contact with. So you literally become a storyteller with your experiences. I have been, like I said, running for the last 15 years. It did not start as me being an athlete, but more so from a place where I wanted to stay fit and wanted to make sure that I stayed healthy. But before I knew that, running became kind of a passion with me. And from 10K, like everybody starts from a 10K, which happens in Bangalore most of the time. And it happens in the month of May. We have a TCS 10K that goes on. I started as that and then moved on to 12K and then to half marathon, which is 21K, and then on to a full marathon. I'm just, this might be just very, very basic for most of you, but I get asked so much that what is a marathon? What is a marathon distance? So that's what it is. A marathon is a strange distance of 42.195 kilometers. And it was basically, the legend has it that a soldier in Greece ran from the village of Marathon to Athens to announce the victory of Greeks over Persia. And when he announced, his name was Peripedes, after he announced and said, oh, we have won, he died. And that's where the legend starts. One little more anecdote is that when I decided I was going to run a marathon, I went back to Marathon Village and ran from Marathon to Athens. That was my first marathon. And I, of course, I cried with overwhelm because I said I did not die at least. So that's the other story. And then from then onwards, in 1896, the Olympic marathons had started, but the distance was 40 kilometers. It just so happened that, English like to set some kind of rules. So they set a funny rule that in 1908, in the London Olympics, when the race was run, it had to come all the way, start at the Windsor Castle and had to open at the Royal Box at the White City Stadium. So they had to add 2.195 kilometers to it, and that's how it became a marathon distance is 42.195 kilometers. And from then onwards, in 1921, the World Athletic made it official. Okay, so I did tell you that I've been running and that my first race was from Marathon to Athens. And then I had run over many more countries, over many more continents. And when you start getting interested in any subject or anything, you try to research more and more. So as I kept researching, I realized that there are some coveted clubs called the Marathon, Seven Continent Marathon Club, which means that you run on 7 continents by hook or by crook. So all the continents, of course, I'm sure everybody knows, but which would be the hardest to go to? That's right, right? So that was a challenge. And then I went ahead and ran on all continents, and it just so happened when you desire something, then the universe makes it possible to happen. So once I had just about finished my Berlin Marathon, and I was in a place trying to with my runner friends, and who did I bump into? The man who was the director of the Antarctica Ice Marathon. And that's how I met him. And I kind of requested to him that I would like to be on that race. It's again a very small race. I'm gonna show a little bit of Antarctica to you because again, a lot of people do ask me Antarctica, the difference between Arctic and Antarctic. So I will briefly run through it. So, and then there is an Intercontinental Marathon Club. I am crazy. If you think, then there are people who are crazier than me. They run 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 consecutive days. So I think I'm not cuckoo yet. I'm saying yet, but that happens. And then there is one more club where you not only have, if you run on 7 continents, but also the North Pole. And that is called as the Grand Slam Club. Okay, well, I've been born and brought up in India, and I've always lived in a tropical climate. I have probably barely been in a temperate or an ice-laden area, maybe 2 times, once in Antarctica, once maybe on a vacation, and that's all. So my experience is plus 30 degrees centigrade temperatures and nothing very, very sub-zero. But some of the extreme cold climates impacts on health can be hypothermia, frostbite, trench foot, etc. And I'm just letting you know this because, again, because when I talk about my experiences, I find out people ask me, what do you wear? So of course I don't wear a t-shirt and shorts, but if you have to be just about warmly clad, not very warmly clad, but just about warmly clad, because you can't be too warm to sweat. If you sweat, what happens when you are in a refrigerator? You'll freeze, right? You'll freeze if there is too much of water on you or too much of sweat on you. So you have to be just about cold, just about warm, just about cold. So for that, we normally wear a base layer, and then there's an inner fleece layer and a wind shell because it's very, very windy out there. Head is always covered. You can wear a balaclava or a thermal hat, and then if you see the buffs are there because your nose and your lips get the brunt of it. The hands are always double layered, a liner and thick gloves, and always UV protected eye glasses or a ski goggles, because the snow is reflective and you can get retinal blindness if the rays of the sun hit your eyes with that. And legs again, 2 to 3 layers. Of course, there's a base layer and then there's a waterproof top layer. And we wear 2 pairs of socks, liner socks, and then there's wool socks. And the shoes, everybody asks, what about the shoes? Your shoes are usually worn water-resistant trail shoes on the snowy surface. But I'm going to tell you the story in a little bit, what happens then. Okay, that was 2018 when I went to Antarctica to do the ice Antarctic Ice Marathon after persuading this man that I had met for the first time that he has to make me run, help me run, and not only me but my husband, because if I was going that far, I didn't want trouble at home. So I made sure that I dragged him with me. So this is we landed on this place is Union Glacier. It's a glacier in Antarctica, which is surrounded by beautiful mountains. It feels like you've landed on Mars because there's no bird, there is no tree, there is no noise, there is nothing. It is just white, pristine sheet of ice. That red dot is the Union Glacier where we land, and we start from the northernmost part of Chile, which is called Punta Arenas. And we use a plane like this, which is a cargo plane or a warplane. It's a Russian Illusion plane. And why is like that? Because it is sturdy enough to take the winds that blow over those intercontinents. And remember I told you the layers that we wore? And that is what I'm trying to tell you, the layers that we wear when we land there. So this bunch of 50 crazy runners from all over the world landed in Antarctica in 2018. That's how the camp looks like. Those dotted particles that are basically camps or the tents. The tents look like that. They are, and we in December. Since it's in the southern hemisphere, it is summer. Summer means the sun never sets, so it is called as like the white nights. We have sun through 24 hours, and because we have sun through the 24 hours, it traps the heat between the two layers of this tent. So when we lying down, that's my husband lying down in his sleeping bag, and then there's one layer, and then there's the top layer, and then that's how we keep warm in that minus 25 to minus 12 to minus 25 is the temperature outside. Okay, another interesting thing is that it's a World Heritage site, Antarctica, so you do not leave behind anything. No paper, no pee, no poop, nothing. Everything has to be bagged, put on the plane, that you fly back in and brought back onto the mainland. And so, which means you poop in a different pot and you pee in a different pot. Next time, try doing that. There is no water. So through and through, we always use sanitizers to keep ourselves germ-free. And if the water was required, then it was essentially thawed, and we could have a bath with that water. Also wanted to tell you that if any of you are interested to go to Antarctica, there is a camp that is run by ALE, Antarctica Logistic Expedition. They put it up every 3 months in a year from November to February. And who goes there? Crazy people like us, of course, some tourists who want to explore the planet. Also, there are mountaineers who want to go and climb the tallest mountain. So there are people who run on 7 continents, but there are also people who climb the mountains on the 7 continents. So and skiers, the ones who attempt to go from coast to coast of Antarctica, which is a very, very difficult ordeal. So this was basically our route, which was 21K back and forth. But it just so happened that these were the 3 Indians who were going to run in that year. That was the race that got started, and you can see everyone wearing something on the nose, because I told you it's very, very important to keep your nose and hand and feet intact. So the weather got really bad while we were running. It started to snow. The ground situation or the foot landing became tedious. These are the footprints that you start forming and then getting inside the snow. Once you wear the gloves, you can't take them off, so you have to cut them to take them off. Why do you take them off? Because you probably need to go to the loo or maybe need to drink water. So yeah. Well, you can experience things like that. Again, some frostbite. This lady, incidentally, I think came second, but she was in a bad shape on the run. That's the lady probably you probably would have figured out by now. And that's my husband, who is looking like a yeti because all the breath from his from the nose has settled as icicles on his beard. So this is what the temperature does to you when you go to climates like this. So I just wanted to tell you what it is to go from from plus 30 to literally minus 20, minus 25 to your physiology. I got that medal after getting there, the Antarctic Ice Marathon medal, and then I was chasing the 7 continents, and that I think that was kind of motivating me to do. If you want to know why I was doing that, just a piece of metal, but yeah. I just was very, very lucky to get a 3rd place in the Antarctic Ice Marathon. We have the lady in the middle who's won it, and the lady who was in bad shape on the second place, and me in the 3rd place. And you could see that there. But so you thought it was hunky dory, we got over and we came back. No, while we were running, we were hit by a blizzard. And the storm grew really, really ferocious. We had winds of 20 miles per hour. Tents were blown over, and our flight, which was supposed to take us back to Chile, did not come for another 7 days. So we spent 7 days on Antarctica. Well, don't ask me trying to do what, but I think I've experienced another continent in its fullest. These are the 2 Russian friends. Since there were 21 nationalities who were running it, these were the 2 Russians who we met. And because you have nothing to do and it is 24 hours daylight, and you have nowhere to go, you're just sitting in the camp, so you just get to meet everyone and the bonds become stronger. So one of the strong bond was these 2 guys. I'll tell you how it finishes the story. What next? So COVID hit, and it just so happened in between COVID, we happened to go to Russia to meet these friends. And while we were there, we hatched a plot to run the North Pole Marathon. So that's where the Arctic Marathon plan actually came by. Yeah, so we signed up in 2022, but it took us 4 years and 5 attempts to get there. And why is that? Because in 2022, we were supposed to go through Norway, but there was resurgence of COVID. Remember, we had the wave 1 and the wave 2. So we got caught in between that and did not happen to go. It got canceled. And then in summer of 2023, there was Russia and Ukraine war, and Norwegians had sanctions, and the crew who was supposed to fly us was Russian crew. Russians are very, very, actually, they have evolved in their airspace. They have evolved in their, forget about weapons, but they are really high above there, and Russian pilots are supposed to be the best in the world. So we could not, that got cancelled. In summer of 2024, the Russians said, we don't care. We don't need Norway. We will go from Russia. So we took another route, which was from Moscow to Siberia. And Siberia, there was a Borneo camp which was going to take us on the ice sheet. But so we sat in Siberia for 7 days, waiting for our call to fly out. But the ice that we were supposed to run on, the Arctic ice, we couldn't get a piece big enough to run. It was wherever they would go and spot it, it would crack. That's how fragile it was. So we came back again. April 2025, the 4th attempt, we were ready to go again, but again, Siberia was considered a no-fly zone. Again, the war is taking its toll, so it got cancelled. But when you are a marathon runner, you don't give up easily. You never say never. So we found another way to go. He says, okay, you can't fly, let's go to the water. So we took finally an icebreaker, which was a French icebreaker, which took us from Norway, a place called Svalbard, is the northernmost town, or it's an archipelago. So it takes you from there all the way to about 1,300 kilometers to the North Pole, which is 90.9 degrees north. So July 2025, we got to do that. So if I were to, what I was talking to you about, there I was supposed to go from here, Moscow to Katanga, and then to Borneo Camp, and then that was the North Pole. Actually, we were going to go to 89 degrees north, and not the North Pole if we were to fly. But this was how we did this. That's a little small Svalbard. And then Longyearbyen is one of the towns that you land, and then you take this icebreaker, which is a world-class ship, and go all the way to the North Pole, right there. Again, another satellite visual, Svalbard, and that's where we're going. That's the ship that's going to take us across those 1,300 kilometers to the North Pole. It's a ship which is environmentally friendlier. It operates on dual fuels. One is LNG, liquefied nitrogen gas, which gives less sulfur dioxide, less nitrogen dioxide, and less pollutants, and also has hybrid batteries. So it switches over to batteries to keep it more silent and less noise pollution for the wildlife, to not get disturbed. It also has its own waste management system. It also purifies its own water. It does not use any once usable materials. So there were no plastics. There were glass bottles. Everything that they take out is taken back on the ship back to the mainland. Okay, but before I go onto the ice, we go to Svalbard. What is so great about Svalbard, other than, of course, we were going, is that it has a global seed vault. Svalbard earlier back in the day, was a coal mining camp. If you see that the circled red, that's one of the old mines, but the last mine got closed in June 2025. And now its economy only thrives on tourism, and having the global sealed vault is another crown in their cap. So this has about 1.8 million seeds, and it is kept at a temperature of minus 18 degrees centigrade. It is to make sure that we do not lose all the species, and if there was a nuclear war or there was an earthquake or the earth had some kind of a tragedy, then all the species of the plants are kept in this vault, which is kept cooled in a controlled environment. Okay, that's the ship again that I was talking to you about. That was the home for us for 15 days. We had 7 days of getting there, and then 1 day of running on the ice, and then 7 days of coming back, of course. All right. And that's how it breaks the ice. Before we went, we were also kind of skeptical that we are going to be going to a very pristine place. Is it worth, going and polluting? But I think when we read about what these people were doing and how things were resources were getting utilized, this was also a ship for scientific experiments. It collects sea ice, it collects sea water. It also goes to the core of the earth and, collects specimens so that the scientists can study. There is also one ship that floats around besides this one that picks up these materials to figure out what's happening to the wildlife. So there are a lot of scientific experiments that these guys do. We happen to meet a lot of environmentalists, scientists, climate change executives who were on this ship essentially to discuss what should be done to the Arctic and how to preserve its as close to natural as can be possible. Okay, so remember, it was not all fun and games. I also went there to run. So now I have run from up till Cubbon Park, all of Bangalore. Bangalore is supposed to be very nice for running, but how to do it in a North Pole. So this is how you practice. This is the deck of the ship. And there was a 330-meter perimeter of the ship. And so we would get dressed and then run around it so that you get a little bit, you see the ice at the back. We're on the ocean and there is sea ice. This is the training on the ship deck. And then we saw a lot of wildlife. So we spotted a lot of polar bears, and this is a picture which is actually taken from the deck. We spotted literally 13 of them at various spots. Our captain was very, very vigilant, and every time, even if it was 2 o'clock in the morning or midnight, but it's never night, right? He would wake us up. Again, these are white nights. The sun never set. It was always white nights. So the sun was shining all the time up there. So he would wake us up to watch these polar bears along when we went. Some more pictures of them in pairs and stuff like that. And they would come so close to the ship and feel that, oh my God, who are these aliens? And they must be thinking, if I had a ladder to come up onto the ship, they could retire for life, right? So what do they eat? So the food of polar bears is essentially seaweed. That's what they eat. They're actually looking at us and they're great swimmers. That's their food. There are plenty of all kind of different kind of seals all over the Arctic region. And if there is depletion of these seals, then the polar bear population is at risk. And finally, on the 12th of July, we reached 90,000 north. That's the North Pole. The man in the center wearing the suit is our captain. Very, very jovial fellow. Can you see those certificates? Yeah, it was a very special moment because human beings took about 150 years to go to North Pole. There were a lot of attempts to go by ship, by boats, and we could do it in 7 days. So I feel grateful and privileged at the same time to have been gone there at the 90 degrees north. So after we reached the North Pole, the team found a strong enough ice for us to do landing. These are called as landings. We're actually walking on frozen ocean. And if you look closely, we're all wearing life jackets because if by any chance the ice cracks and someone falls in, then you can be at least saved because you're wearing a life jacket. Oh, then we have some more crazy people. Okay, they don't just do that, they do something more than that. It's called as a polar plunge. So that's -5 degrees water, really, really cold. But then if you come to North Pole and there's a polar plunge, you shouldn't miss it, right? Okay. Finally, what you were probably wanting to see. This was the North Pole Marathon 2025. I'm just going to run this. We see the ground. Any runners here? This is frozen ocean. We had a loop of 840 meters, and we had to do it 50 times to make it 42.195. People made Guinness Book of World Record here. Fastest female runner, fastest couple, fastest. Can you see the ship? And then we are putting all of the loop. Fastest human chain runners. They were linked, 5 runners were linked together. But that is ocean, huh? And if you see in the corners, we have marshals or sentries. They are standing there. If you see that, they're standing there with the guns, because if the polar bear came, then the game was over. We have to abandon. First, the polar bear will be frightened by shooting in the air, and if it came, then we all have to go back on the ship and start all over again. Luckily, at this point, we did not get any polar bear. You see the sentries here with guns, they were watchful throughout the time that we ran. And the last person that's a link. The last person to finish the marathon was 9 hours. So for 9 hours, they kept an eye. Slushy conditions, snow kept going in and out of our shoes. So the waterproof shoes did not make too much of a difference. It is an emotional moment. It's another Indian. That's why you were watching this. Thank you. So yeah, because the conditions were like that, I did get a 1st-degree frostbite, which meant that my toes had gotten numb, and when after the race, when I had put warm water on it, it was like burning. It took me 3 months to get the sensation back in my toes, but luckily it wasn't very bad. When the foot goes so cold. Some more pictures. But you see, we didn't find a Yeti here. There were no icicles because the sun was out, and it went from it got about 5 degrees centigrade, plus 5 degrees centigrade. So it wasn't minus, like it wasn't at Antarctica. So that was the difference. The Earth was steadier in Antarctica because it is land, and here because we were in water, it was getting slushier as more and more runners would run on the same path, and the sun was also warming the snow. Okay, so we ran the marathon and then we started to retrace back again. And since you're in that vicinity, we're still in the Arctic Circle, we did do some hikes to see the flora and the fauna, and going up the mountains to see the volcanic, the activities of the volcanic eruptions that had given them the sedimentary rock kind of mountains. So there were mountains which were made up of only sedimentary rocks, and then there were mountains which had igneous and sedimentary together. And then we could go up, but there was an easy way to come down. Why is it more exciting for me or for because I told you we've never lived in ice and snow, so it might just be very romantic to see okay snowfall, but it is a different ball game altogether when you go there. Not only get acclimatized to the climate, to the weather, but live there, breathe, get yourself tortured on the course and stuff like that. It's a very rich flora and fauna, and then you can see there are hundreds of seabirds on this particular site. They're called as guillemots. Yes, nestled there. And those are the igneous rock mountains. And then we spotted a whole bunch of reindeers. Yeah, they're not only for Christmas, they are there in the Arctic. You can see them. And they shed their horns every year, and then they grow new horns. Or I don't know if they shed it every year, but they do shed it in their life cycles. Oh, that's the Arctic fox. It changes color from brown to white. In white, it has to camouflage, so it turns white. Yeah, those are the icebergs that you go to visit the glaciers up close, not too up close, but yet. And because the glaciers are melting, you can see a whole bunch of dirt and sand in there because of the way the weather is changing. Those are the food for the polar bear. There were plenty of them that we spotted. Walrus, and we spotted the blue whale on the left. Some flora again. This is summer, so this is what the reindeers feed on. You must be surprised, Arctic green. Yeah, and it's a problem. Again, some more reindeers. You'll see them grazing. Arctic is not supposed to be this green. Even if we went in summer, it should not have so much of grass. But that there is grass is also showing us there's global warming. And that's where we came back to Longyearbyen, where we started from. While we were on the trip, we met a lot of environmentalists, and one of the reasons I am doing this talk is also to sensitize people around about the Arctic warming. Again, the Longyearbyen. This is from our friend and now friend, but a runner, Rolf. The Arctic climate change chapter, and they do the monitoring very closely, and that's what they did there as well. We had a couple of sessions there, and this we've gotten with his permission, and he's gone ahead and given us the go ahead to present to the world in whichever way we can. So Arctic is like the canary of the globe. That means whatever is happening at the Arctic Circle is 3 times, the global warming is 3 times faster at the Arctic Circle than in the rest of the world. So the temperatures have changed very, very quickly from -4 degrees, which used to be in summer. Now it has become +4 degrees. And you can see on that map how it is, the warming is happening very, very quickly. And why is it of such an concern to us? Because there are Amazon rainforest droughts are happening. There is reduction in the sea ice. There are forest fires that we see in the North America. There are pests are changing, and even with the warming, new viruses which are probably frozen, or the pests which were frozen are again coming to light. So they're getting new strains out. Coral reefs are depleting. Greenland ice sheet is losing its thickness. Permafrost is something which is a layer under the green layer that you saw. There is a constant thick ice layer that happens. It's frozen through the year. The permafrost is thawing, and that is becoming a problem. And then we also losing the Antarctic ice sheet, and the melting of the ice is accelerating. These are all the reasons which are causing climate issues. So they said that the studies that have been done over the last 50 years have shown that the Arctic temperature has increased by 3 degrees in the last 50 years, while the global air temperature has only increased by 1.3 degrees centigrade. Okay, so everything that is happening in the Arctic, you would think that, okay, it's frozen, but it's happening much faster than it's happening in the rest of the globe. And it is going to have impact on the rest of the world as well. What cryosphere changes? 58% decline in sea ice, 27% decline in the snow spring. And the permafrost, like I said, is thawing, and ground temperatures are becoming a record high. Why is it so important? If you see, that is showing it as a few years, a 4 years difference of the Arctic ice, and how it is depleting so quickly. So they say that it's a polar vortex. Why is polar vortex so important? Because it keeps the climate stable. So when the strong jet streams stay up there, the cold air doesn't come down and the hot air doesn't come up. But because of the ice thawing, what is happening is the wavy pattern that you see is getting caused. So the cold air is going down and the warm air is coming up, and it is causing the ice to melt very, very quickly. Because of this, there is also increase in atmospheric carbon dioxide, and the surface of the ocean carbon dioxide is increasing. It's decreasing the pH. And what does this pH do? It just disturbs the whole of the ecosystem, the food web. The little snail also tells the health of the ocean. This little snail are supposed to be clear, transparent, but when the pH increases, it starts getting calcified, and that's how they can tell that the pH of the ocean is increasing. So it increases carbon dioxide, carbon and methane, and or acidification of the oceans take place. That's the Arctic food web that gets disrupted. A whole bunch of species of the fish are losing their species, crabs and arthropods, and these are the ones which the seals feed on. And when the seals don't have food, who doesn't have food? Polar bear. The polar bear doesn't have food, so we get very few polar bears left. We have only 30,000 polar bears left in the Arctic now, and the population is dwindling because there is less ice. Less ice means there is not enough seal. The seal has to come on top of the ice. It feeds in the ocean and comes on top to lie around, and that's what the polar bear feeds on. Again, a lot of erosion around the coast, thaw of the permafrost, and that is affecting the livelihood of the people around and the ecosystem. We are seeing so many forest fires in North America. This is one of the reasons. The wildfires have increased 4 times in the last 20 years. It has increased the health risk because of that, air pollution, and then it becomes a vicious amplified cycle. Again, this is showing how the Arctic tundra maximum, how it's thawing, and the Arctic tundra time integrated graph over the last 50 years. Projections for the future of Arctic climate. Because it is warming up, you think it's going to take some time, but it's going to be definitely faster warming in 2100 than we expected. We are going to have ice-free Arctic in summer by 2040. I told you that I made 5 attempts, and one of the attempts I could not land on the ice was because there was not thick enough ice, and that is global warming. We don't have ice in summer anymore. Arctic was supposed to be frozen, but that's not the case anymore. Again, the precipitation has increased, higher intensity of rains. You saw rains up north in India. You thought India won't get affected? I'll show you. Okay, in summary, thawing by 3 degrees since 1971, rainfall has increased by 10%. Spring snow has come down by 26.7%, permafrost increased by 2 to 3%, oceans becoming acidic, atmospheric carbon dioxide increasing 3 to 4 times faster in the other ocean basins. So it is all these factors at least are accelerating it 2 times faster than here than the rest of the globe. What does it mean for India? It means that according to our National Action Plan on Climate Change, that the sea level will rise by 0.3 to 1 meters by 2100. That means the long coastline that we have, most of the significant areas would be submerged. There will be glacial meltings in the Himalayas. Monsoon disruption, you saw the unpredictable monsoons that has happened. It is because of the Arctic, and we are linked. We are all linked so closely together, even though we're so many miles away. There's extreme weather in North India, the heat waves, increased cyclones, and Sundarban, the Indian coastal economy, fishing, tourism, ports will all be threatened. The Sundarban will have a major impact because it is so low-lying area, including our Bengal tiger. So the implication on India is also really huge. And that's the message that I wanted to bring to everyone, that it's not very far away. It's very closer to home as well. Okay, this thing came out on October 3rd, 2025, and that they exactly said that the future, we have a station called Himadri Station at Svalbard Archipelago, okay? And we do our research from there as well. It was inaugurated in 2008, July. And for future of India's food security, it is all the scientists who are huddled in that hut at Svalbard, and they measure the thickness of sea ice and the glaciers. They predict the floods in India. That's how closely we are related. And this is from a London correspondent, and a report of 2025 October. Okay, so glaciers are melting. Let's see how they are caving in. If it's beautiful. But this happens all the time, but it's just happening very, very quickly and very fast. Literally like that, in front of us. And it took millions of years to get these glaciers up. Okay, that's a talk for another day. People ask me, was it the hardest step one I've done? No, that was not the hardest one. The South America was the hardest one. So I just put the slides to say, but yeah, that's story for another day. And thank you. Also a phenomena, you see the beautiful rainbow that was in Svalbard. And if you actually look, there's another white rainbow. It's called as a fog bowl. And that's one of the phenomena you see on the sea, on the ice, because the particles of water are very small and they do not undergo refraction, so you get a white rainbow. Thank you for your patient hearing.
Gurmeet, thank you very much. The wonderful way your experience you explained and what is going to happen. And the permafrost, as you said, I think if it melts, it contributes significantly, tons of carbon, and global warming much more faster. And also recently have been identified 33 new germs were antibiotic resistant germs. So health sector has to be aware of it, prepare ourselves and all those things. Anyway, I think we have only 3 minutes time. Any questions? One question?
What's your first experience in Allergist? And you had many blood offers. So how was your first experience?
Okay. Are you saying in the ice? In the snow?
Yes, yes, yes.
First it's shock, right? Because it's very cold and you're not used to cold at all. So that's I think the whole energy is spent on keeping your hands and your nose and your toes warm. And then but you know, the only thing is, like I told you, marathoners never give up. So you go out, you kind of breathe the winds, you push yourself to go out and get acclimatized. But I've always maybe out of the ordinary, so I cherish them and I like to do that. That's why I did Antarctic, and then it was not enough, so I did the Arctic because it's cold, it's uncomfortable. But at the same time, of course, there are special experiences, and I feel very grateful that I'm able to do that.
But completely packed with number of layers.
Yeah, I showed the layers when on the run, but when you're not on the run, then you wear big jackets and you wear snow boots when you're generally walking around there. That's what you do. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else?
Really an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
So was the Arctic, the looping of the marathon track, was it around the actual North Pole itself?
Yes. Okay, the interesting thing, I mean, because of the paucity of time, I did not mention, but you see, we're on the frozen ice, so they have to look for an ice floe which is at least 3 meters thick for so many humans to walk on, because like I told you, we were all wearing life jackets that can crack. And to find that ice floe, it's a challenge, right? So it was an 840-meter loop that we could go round and round around in that area of that ice floe. So that looping was there. Yeah. In Antarctica, it was supposed to be 21 kilometers, but because of the blizzard and because the visibility had come down, again, Antarctica is a glacier, so there are crevices. You can fall into the crevices, so you will stay within a certain area. So they had cut it down to 10K. So 10K needs only 4 loops, but here 800 meters means 50 loops all around. So it had its own implications. So the ice would melt, and then we got a lot of water into numb feet. Everybody had just like cold, numb feet, which you could not feel.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. A wonderful talk. Really, we all appreciate that. And also, again, you never keep quiet. I know you're going to do it again. I know in your nature. Your nature. And a token of appreciation, we like to present a small memento. We want Professor Srinivasan behind the door. Please come over with some
So my Antarctic time was 6 hours and 30 minutes, and this one was 8 hours and 5 minutes. Yeah, it is longer.
Please come. Let's have a picture. All of you.
I can, on that, I can do more like 4 hours, 10 minutes. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.